Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish out the week with a creator request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their music. Today we're going to be looking at a Ukrainian folk metal band named TEREN. In the email they sent me, it said, "Hi, my name is Yulia. I'm a participant of folk metal band TEREN from the Ukraine, and I decided to bring you one of our videos. Greetings from Ukraine." The song that they requested was from a much older one, from a few months ago. And as usual with these, because I'm so far behind, and I do apologize, I get a ton of these. I did go looking for a newer one. So we're going to check out their newest one today. It came out February 12th, which was about a month ago. This one's called Greed. And it seems that possibly they went about changing their thumbnails around, because all of their thumbnails are like this. It says, "While you listen to the song, Russians bomb us." So they're definitely trying to spread the message there. So let's dive into this and see what's going on. I'm also not going to do any plugs for my own channel. I'm not going to ask you to do any of the call to actions or anything at the ends. Instead, I ask that you guys go and check out the description. In there is going to be links to find out more of TEREN's music, or where you can purchase their merch and help support them, as well as some like relief fundraiser stuff to help Ukraine with the war. All right, so let's dive into this and see what's going on. This is TEREN's Greed. Utilizing a little bit of space in there to emphasize. Really opening this up. Extremely catchy so far as well. I think it's an interesting decision to place the keys hand right. Really has this chugging vibe the entire time. Yeah, even so right here, there's just this forward momentum. Yeah, those triplets in there. There is an interesting, there's like a single note in the keyboard that's coming off the left side. Oh, yeah. Yeah, showcase some of that frustration. And having it come back and transform it into a little run there, pulling the edge off. Okay. Yes, real nice rundown there. And a key shift. Interesting. So the description down here, we're going to get into this, but I think this is really important. It says it was God knows what year, maybe 2222, maybe last year. Instead of icebergs, oil slicks drifted across the ocean. The planet's central heating was directly connected to forest fires. The noise of cities echoed off steep garbage slopes, multiplied and muffled lone voices. Sometimes, when the smog and dust scattered, dreamers sat and peeped through the hole in the ozone layer into the sky, dreaming of new worlds, sipping through the straws the last drop of Earth's power. Mankind was choking on its own greed. And I think it's really interesting um, to turn that into what we have here. So, um, we have a strong, almost militaristic snare idea that dun 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 present throughout almost this entire track. We hear it in the intro, we hear it in the verse, it's present a bit in the chorus, not as heavily presented though. And it's this constant drive forward, this rhythmic march towards the end of the track. And I think it's interesting that the end of the track is sort of just this fade out, and the music video implies that the band is about to be consumed by fire. So even their voice speaking out against this corporate greed is about to be extinguished. Um, so yeah, but it's this constant drive forward, and that's exactly what the capitalism that they speak of, um, or even not just capitalism as I mean I think capitalism contributes a lot to all of this: the forest fires, the ozone deterioration, deforestation, oils being let loose into the ocean. Um, but it's just the world leaders as a whole. Um, the greed that exists in the 1% of the world, the people who can control the world and are allowing it to become where it's at. It's interesting, I think, um, that this description at the end says that the people who look through the ozone layer and dream of new worlds, the dreamers, the dreamers sat and peeped through the hole. These dreamers are the ones who are sipping through the straws the last drops of Earth's power. Interesting that the dreamers would not be the working class hoping to get off this planet and find somewhere a little bit more hospitable. It's the people who ruined it looking for another place to destroy. I think that's an interesting line there in the description. But the lyrics also line up with a lot of this as well, and we have this militaristic drive that brings the entire song forward, continues to push it to the next section. And I think it lines up perfectly with this idea of those who control the world, which tends to be the governments and oligarchs, and the dictators. Having that military power, right, and progressing towards this this apocalypse that they're speaking of in the song and that the description speaks of. Um, they have the power, and that power is typically associated with the militaristic force, and we have this military march consistent in this song, and it doesn't really stop, doesn't really let up until the guitar solo, and even then is a brief moment until we get back into it. um, and then I think the other part of the song that really speaks to these ideas, these themes, is going into the bridge when the vocalist went from the clean singing and then put that edge in there, and it turned into this nice yell, almost a scream. Those are the two moments that I think where the song really lines up thematically, lyrically, and musically. The rest of the track, I don't think kind of synergizes as well with the themes, but there are some really cool things going on and some interesting things. We're going to start with the interesting. The production, I think, is a interesting part because we have the guitar left pan and the keyboard right pan. And it provides a type of imbalance, at least to my ears, because the guitars are so much more powerful than the keyboard. The keyboard has, the nice warmth that it does, but it lacks that bite and it lacks the volume in the mix here against the guitar on the other side, and it makes it feel just a little uneven. Um, And so, I mean, it immediately stood out to me. It was in the very beginning, and I thought it was really cool what they had going on rhythmically between the drums, the piano, and the keyboard. But the keyboard just was not, it didn't have the punch it needed to be isolated like that. I think, personally, I would have put the keyboard centered and then maybe doubled the guitar and put it on both sides. And then maybe pull the volume back a little bit just so it's not overpowering everything else. But also, like I say all the time, that would also it would change the way the song feels. It would change the way the song sounds. So it's not. I'm not necessarily saying that's a better idea. In fact, it's more of a standardized feel. It's more of a modernized, not modern. Mainstream is the M word I was looking for. It's more of a mainstream production style to kind of level everything out and get a nice symmetry going on. So that may not have been their intent, and this was exactly what they wanted, in which case, TEREN, if you're listening, completely ignore what I said. But at least to me, it did feel a little imbalanced. I got used to it, but I do think that the song sounded more balanced during the bridge with the guitar solo section going than it did when the guitar was isolated on the left and the piano was isolated on the right. Um, I do really love that opening rhythmic idea, though. We had the drums laying down like a quarter note idea. We had the guitars playing 16th notes, was it? Was it a 16th note run? Maybe it was an 8th note run. And then the piano was doing half of that. And we had this nice rhythmic layering going on, like a rhythmic pyramid between those three instruments. And it just came in real strong with the vibe that the song was going to be about. I've talked before about thesis statements to songs. What a thesis statement at the beginning of a paper is, it tells you the intentions of the paper. By the first sentence, if not by at least the first paragraph, what you're about to read, what it's about, what kind of writing it's going to be, what kind of level of writing, what kind of, is it going to be dry? Is it going to be comedic? You know exactly what's going on just by that. And this is a song that I think absolutely nails that. From the first measure, you already know what the vibe of the song is going to be. You know what it feels like. You know that we've got these classical elements being worked in with the piano. We have interesting layering. And by the time the vocals come in the verse, you have heard everything as it's going to exist through this song, and you can make a pretty good guess about what the rest of the song is going to be like and whether you want to stick around for it or not. And I think that's phenomenal. I've said before that there's certainly a reason for a slow burn or to have to open with a style that's not indicative of your song. There's definitely narrative or thematic reasons why you would want to go about doing that. It could also be that it works better in the context of a larger work, like how your song fits in an album. But I think for a single like this, to have a very strong beginning and to showcase exactly what you're about, to bring in people who love that, and to let people know that if that's not typically their jam, that you've already showcased, hey, this is what we're about, and you've given them, you haven't used up too much of their time, and they can, duck out without really feeling like they've lost much. That's how I would go about doing a single. You'd be very upfront and present about what you're doing, and this does a fantastic job of that. So fantastic job with that. Um, and the last thing I want to talk about is the last minute and a half of the track, which I think is both simultaneously the weakest and the strongest part, we're going to look at the bridge, which I was really getting into. By the time I was getting into it, the guitar solo was going, and it felt like the guitarist was warming up into a larger idea. They had this repeating phrase going on. They changed their guitar tone. The panning was changed to give them the spotlight. And it felt like we were really getting into the meat of a nice bridge, and we moved from that into the final chorus. And man, that left me wanting. That left me wanting more. I was a little underwhelmed with that. And that could just be that I was not approaching the song on its own terms. I was expecting something y'all weren't I was expecting something y'all weren't going to do. And that's not necessarily fair on y'all. My expectations were not aligned with what you were doing. But at the same time, I do feel like we were building up intensity, and it was leading towards something, and it just didn't. I don't necessarily think that the bridge needs to be extended. I don't think the solo needs to be lengthened out, but possibly just have a little stronger of a connection between the bridge and that final chorus. I think it was just a little too disjointed, and it's not necessarily that I needed more bridge. It's just with all that rising energy, it needed to go somewhere, and it kind of didn't. It just kind of flipped the switch back to the chorus, and yeah, that personally just it didn't work for me. But again, if that was your intention, ignore what I'm saying. But I do want to bring this back to that final chorus because I thought this was phenomenal. I talk about this all the time. If you're going to bring your chorus back for a second or third time, if you're beginning the song with a chorus, um, you need to do something to keep my attention. I mean, it's the last 40 minutes of the song. You don't want me to say, oh, this again. You know, granted, it's catchy, right? I don't know the words, but rhythmically and the flow of the lyrics, or I should say the flow of the vocals, the range and the pitch and stuff like that, mixed with the rhythmic element of it, there's a lot of catchy lines in here, right? And I think the chorus is a really good hook as far as the vocals are concerned, um, but that little oomph you needed at the end, and I'm so glad you did it. I talk about this all the time. A key change, a small key change. It really wasn't much. You just brought it up a hair, and man, though, it provides so much energy to finish out the song with that I absolutely loved it. And then, of course, you take that energy and you slowly dissipate it out in the idea of even as you stated here in the description, mankind was choking on its own greed. Choking is sort of a slow death. It's not instantaneous. You slowly run out of breath for your body to function. You run out of the oxygen. And I like how the song slowly diminishes down into this fade out. I think it's a perfect way to end this, especially given this marching, imperialistic, driving momentum throughout, which makes it feel like there's this rush to get to the finality of Earth, which is sometimes what it feels like when I'm reading the news. So, yeah, just fantastic job with this song. A couple of small nitpicks, which again could just be me. It could, maybe you guys agree with me, maybe you don't. It could just be a personal take on music. Everybody is welcome to their own opinions and intentions. It's your music. Don't do it just because I said it. If you agree with me, go ahead and implement it. But if you don't, that's fine too. So yeah, those are my thoughts on TEREN's Greed. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this one or not. And if there's anything that you want to add to my analysis or anything like that. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, check out the description box. There's a ton of links in there. Anything that might interest you, go ahead and check that one out. All right, I'll be back next week. Until then, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.